tentunya Bapak Ibu kegiatan hari ini merupakan for me, Bapak Ibu. Saya Sandra Insanasari dapat kembali menemani keseruan acara kita pada hari ini, yang tentunya digelar oleh the biggest IT distributor in Indonesia. Siapa lagi kalau bukan Synnex Metro Data Indonesia bersama dengan Intel dan didukung oleh Asosiasi IoT Indonesia. And before we go any further, I would like to greet our speaker today. Good afternoon, Mr. Sumner Lemon, as the Regional Director, Digital Transformation and Enterprise Sales, Asia Pacific and Japan Territory Intel Corporation. And also Mr. Patrick Liu as the Regional Manager, IoT and DCG Distributor Intel. And also good afternoon, Mr. Guan Buntan as the APGT Intel IoTG FAE Intel Technology Asia PTE Ltd. Dan selamat siang juga kepada Ibu Maria Kalagi as the IoT Aggregator Lead Intel Indonesia dan kepada Bapak Herianto selaku IoT and Cloud Business Development Director PT Synnex Metro Data Indonesia. And of course, first of all, terima kasih kepada Bapak Ibu dan juga teman-teman semua yang sudah hadir ya bergabung di webinar kita pada hari ini. Sebelum langkah lebih jauh, saya mau confirm dulu. Boleh chat di kolom chat, suara saya terdengar dengan jelas ya Bapak Ibu ya? Ini yang hadir dari mana aja nih? Kita kenalan dulu dong di sini yang hadir. Oke, banyak sekali. Di sini suara saya terdengar dengan jelas ya? Oke, ini yang hadir dari mana saja? Boleh chat juga dong di kolom chat, kita kenalan tentunya ya. Oke, kata Pak Bagit, jelas. Oke, jelas ya. Ini ada Pak Lutfi dari Semarang. Oke, Pak Bagit dari PT KAI. Wow, halo, salam kenal, selamat bergabung. Ada Meng Api juga dari Surabaya, Bekasi, Bandung, Semarang, Tangerang. Wah, ini kayaknya seluruh Indonesia ya hadir di sini, luar biasa ya. Dan tentunya Bapak Ibu terima kasih sekali lagi sudah hadir ya dari training ke training, dari webinar ke webinar. Ada yang sempat ikut juga nggak minggu lalu nih? Minggu lalu juga kita kan sekali lagi ini merupakan rangkaian acara ya, dan salah satunya seriesnya, trainingnya hari ini. Minggu lalu kita ada Intel Develop, ada yang hadir juga kah? Oke, ini kayaknya cukup banyak pendatang baru juga, luar biasa sekali. Apalagi yang kemarin-kemarin sudah ikut, wah ada Pak Dwi, semangat, thank you. Pokoknya untuk yang kemarin sudah ikut, yang hari ini sudah ikut, saya kasih tepuk tangan dulu karena luar biasa banget semangatnya ya, kemauannya untuk gali informasi lebih. Dan hari ini kita akan membahas tema tentunya yang sangat menarik nih Bapak Ibu. Karena kalau kita bicara soal transformasi digital, Industri 4.0, ini bagaimana masa depan ini nggak jauh-jauh dari yang namanya AI teknologi. Gambarannya seperti apa? Mungkin Bapak Ibu dan juga teman-teman sudah bisa merasakan ya, lihat juga di sekitarnya seperti apa. Namun pertanyaannya apakah sudah bisa nih mendeploy itu ke infrastruktur yang Bapak Ibu punya? Dan seperti apa nanti ke depannya nih? Apakah semuanya akan serba AI kah? Mengapa demikian? And how to create the future of AI? Di sini Intel akan bagikan Bapak Ibu dan juga teman-teman informasinya. Dan untuk yang sudah bergabung di sini, ini beruntung sekali ya. Karena tentunya kenapa beruntung? Bapak Ibu dan juga teman-teman yang hadir di sini bisa mendapatkan ilmu, knowledge-nya langsung, pemaparan dari para expert yang tentunya hari ini spesial ya. Karena hadir expert dari Intel Corporation langsung yang akan membahas terkait dengan tema kita hari ini. Kita akan dengarkan secara live nanti, kita akan diskusi seru, mumpung sudah ada pakarnya Bapak Ibu ya. Silahkan jika ada pertanyaan, case-case tertentu, jangan malu untuk bertanya, karena tentunya kita sama-sama belajar, bisa ditanyakan dalam bahasa Inggris atau mungkin dalam bahasa Indonesia. Tidak apa-apa, silahkan mendrop saja pertanyaannya di kolom Q&A. Jika ada case-case tertentu mungkin yang dirasakan, tanyakan saja, ngobrol bareng, mumpung sudah ada expertnya sekali lagi. Dan tentunya nanti juga kita di akhir acara akan ada next schedule training, kita akan umumkan ya. Supaya kedepannya nih Bapak Ibu dan juga teman-teman yang bergabung hari ini bisa ikut juga, nggak ketinggalan. Karena apa? Karena sekali lagi yang hadir ini narasumbernya luar biasa. Expert Intel dari berbagai negara, termasuk Intel pusat di US. Dan Bapak Ibu, tanpa berlama-lama kita akan masuk lebih dalam ke acara kita pada hari ini dengan mendengarkan terlebih dahulu sambutan dari Ibu Maria Kalagi as the IoT Aggregator Lead Intel Indonesia. Kepada Ibu Maria saya persilahkan.
Thank you Sandra. Terima kasih teman-teman sekalian sudah hadir di acara kita kali ini. Kita akan membahas nanti langsung dari Mr. Sumner, how to create the future of AI with Intel Technology. Hari ini saya bisa bilang agak istimewa ya, karena kita memang benar-benar dapat speaker yang sekarang Mr. Sumner is our regional director, dan dia memang expert di AI di Intel. Jadi aku bisa bilang ini benar-benar super spesial. Kalau teman-teman bisa hadir di sini, bisa mendengar langsung apa yang kita bisa bantu untuk teman-teman sekalian. Kita nggak ngomong lagi nanti Intel cuman prosesor doang lah, atau cuman komponen doang, tapi kita bisa tahu teknologi apa yang bisa membantu teman-teman untuk solusi AI teman-teman sekalian di sini nanti. Nanti Mr. Sumner juga akan menjelaskan nggak cuma membantu ya, tapi mengakomodir. Mengakomodir itu kita bisa bilang bahwa satu AI solusi satu dengan AI solusi yang lainnya pasti akan berbeda. Kebutuhan teman-teman akan berbeda. Bagaimana Intel bisa mengakomodir kebutuhan tersebut dari sisi teknikal. Karena kita juga nggak tahu kan masing-masing aplikasi, masing-masing solusi punya ya itu tadi saya bilang different arsitektur, different juga beda juga peruntukannya. Nah, nanti teman-teman bisa lihat apa yang bisa kami bantu untuk saya mungkin bisa bilang memudahkan teman-teman untuk membangun solusi tersebut. Nah, untuk sesi kali ini pada HAI kita sekarang ini kita punya beberapa series of training. Ini adalah salah satunya. Dan kemarin-kemarin itu kita udah ada sekitar 3 series lagi, nanti masih ada sekitar 5 series lagi yang akan menampilkan, bukan menampilkan ya, jadi yang akan, apa ya kita bilang, bersinergi dan juga kita akan membahas teknologi-teknologi Intel yang bisa teman-teman pakai, praktis, oke, teknologi praktis yang bisa kita pakai untuk AI solusi. Nggak cuma dari Intel doang, tapi juga dari kerjasama dengan teman-teman yang lain dari ODM dan OEM-nya Intel, ada juga kita dari vendor cloud juga. Jadi ini adalah kesempatan buat teman-teman sekalian untuk belajar bagaimana sih sebenarnya kita bisa memaksimalkan solusi-solusi yang ada dengan Intel teknologi. Bagaimana sih kita bisa memaksimalkan juga apa ya, bisa prosesor, bisa kita nggak ngomong GPU ya, tapi kita ngomong Intel teknologi untuk satu end-to-end solution untuk AI. Nggak cuma AI, tapi mungkin data center kita bisa ngomongnya kan. Tapi di sini kita bisa lihat bahwa Intel punya solusi memang yang end-to-end. Oke, dari data center, kita bisa lihat network sampai ke IoT juga dan AI. Jadi nggak cuma kita sekedar ngomongin prosesor, sekedar ngomongin komponen teknologi, no. Tapi kita belajar di sini gimana caranya kita create the future with AI with Intel technology. Aku nggak bakal ngomong banyak-banyak, langsung aja mungkin ya kita langsung ke Mr. Sumner. Apa sih yang bisa Intel bantu, Intel berikan, dan apa yang bisa juga teman-teman dapatkan dari Intel untuk di teknologi AI ini. Next-nya mungkin langsung aja ya Mbak Sandra, kita langsung ke Mr. Sumner untuk lebih lanjutnya. Oke, thank you Mbak Sandra.
Oke, terima kasih kembali Bu Baria atas sambutan hangatnya. Jadi kita juga sudah dengarkan ya Bapak Ibu dan juga teman-teman gambaran terkait pembahasan kita pada hari ini. Dan tentunya sesuai yang sudah saya infokan di awal, bahwa hari ini kita kedatangan expert dari Intel Corporation based in Singapore. He has more than 20 years of experience in Asia. He had previous experience as a commercial service intern at the US Embassy in Beijing, now manager at Edelman, editor or reporter at Computer World Hong Kong, correspondent in IDG News Service, and a variety of positions at Intel Corporation. Specialties are computing, mobility, and strategy. And now we would like to discuss about our topic today, about creating a future of AI with Intel technology. How the future of AI, how to create it. We will hear the presentation, and if there are any questions during the presentation, just put the question in the Q&A box. After the presentation, we will read it. Dan gak harus bahasa Inggris, Bapak Ibu sekali lagi bisa diungkapkan pertanyaannya in Indonesia juga. Jadi jangan selewatkan sekali lagi kesempatan untuk bertanya dengan expertnya langsung. And without further ado, please join me to welcome Mr. Summer Lemon as a Regional Director, Digital Transformation and Enterprise Sales, Asia Pacific and Japan Territory at Intel Corporation. Mr. Sumner, the time is yours.
Thank you, Sandra, and thank you for that very generous and very comprehensive introduction. I really appreciate it. And good afternoon to all of our webinar attendees. You know, it was really interesting watching that video just now and seeing the footage of Jakarta. And I'm based in Singapore, and it would be wonderful to be in Indonesia and be with you in person today. Obviously, with the current environment, that's not possible, but seeing that footage and that video, it makes me hopeful that one day soon we'll be able to get back together in person and have these types of discussions face to face. So that's what I'm hoping for in the future. But look, it's wonderful to be here, and we've got some time to talk about how we can create a future of AI together using Intel technology. And I've got a few slides to share with you. But like Sandra said, we want to be able to, answer your questions. So as I'm going through these slides, please take the time to answer some, input your questions into the tool, and we'll make sure to get to those at the end. Okay, good. So maybe if we could go to the next slide, we can get started. When we talk about AI, whether we talk about AI in the data center or at the edge, I always think it's important to reflect on the history of AI and what it really means, because as we all know, AI itself isn't really new. A lot of the math has been around for decades. The concepts and the theory has always been there. It's just recently been in the last, say 5 to 10 years, where we've had advances in compute performance and networking and storage that have enabled us to apply some of those AI concepts in real time, in a time frame where we can act on the insights that we get back. And of course, as that compute capability has increased, that's also made it possible for us to refine and innovate in new algorithms and new approaches. And so, it's just a tremendously exciting time. And as much as the current situation with COVID is very difficult, and I think we've all struggled with that in one way or another, whether it's worrying about family or working from home or balancing all those challenges. In the industry, there's been this great acceleration of technology, and data and AI has been a really important part of that. And we're now at this point where this vision of a world where AI is everywhere is really within our grasp. It's really a reality. And that means AI in the cloud, AI on premises, AI on multi-access edge compute for telecommunications networks, and at the edge. That's the potential. That's where we are today. And it's really exciting to me to have this opportunity for us to get together virtually and explore how we can do that together. So, next slide, please. The reality with AI, as you all know, is that there is no single AI workload. There's training, and there's inference, and there's AI applications in the cloud and at the edge. There's a wide variety. And just as there are many different AI workloads, the reality is that there isn't a single hardware solution that can address everything. And Intel's strategy, what we really believe in, is a vision where you're able to pick the hardware that best matches your desired application. So for edge deep learning inference, that could mean our Intel Movidius VPUs, for instance. For data center, deep learning training and inference with massive data sets, we have our Habana accelerators. And for custom deep learning, pathfinding and research, we have Intel FPGAs. But at the core of our strategy, we have the Intel Xeon processor, our data center class, server class processor, which is built from the ground up and optimized for AI workloads. And we also have our Intel Core CPUs and Atom CPUs, which are really designed for those lighter edge applications, those devices where power or size and other constraints may mean you can't put an accelerator or a server CPU there. You need other options. And so Core and Atom fit into that. And then, of course, we also have GPU. And you've heard us talk publicly about our GPU strategy, and we're really excited to see those products coming to market in the not too distant future. So what I'd really like you to take away is that whatever the AI application is that you're developing, that you're thinking about, Intel has a solution that's optimized and designed for you. Next slide, please. Now, the key thing is when people talk about AI, there's often this misperception that AI has to be run on a GPU or it has to be run on an accelerator. And that's simply not the case. At Intel, we recognize that AI isn't purely a hardware problem, that hardware and software have to be tightly integrated and optimized. And as one of the largest software companies, and we have thousands of software engineers at Intel, we've invested heavily in Intel optimized software to help you get the best value out of the Intel silicon that you're building into your devices and your solutions. And you can see some of the examples. You know, you can get 10 to 100x faster performance using Intel optimized frameworks like TensorFlow or scikit-learn instead of the stock distributions. Generation on generation, you see big jumps in performance. 74% increase in performance generation to generation for natural language processing applications, for instance. And you can see that the Xeon CPU really works across a wide range of deep learning models. And we're calling out some of those here. You know, neural networks like ResNet 50, BERT Large, gradient boosting machines, XGBoost, linear regressions, classification models. There's really a very wide spectrum of applications that you can run on Xeon for both training and inference. Next slide, please. And what makes that possible, what makes Intel's CPUs different from other companies' CPUs, is we offer the only x86 data center CPU that includes built-in AI acceleration. So that's our Intel Deep Learning Boost technology. You sometimes hear us at Intel, we call it DL Boost. That's a silicon-based feature that really helps accelerate inferencing workloads. You also see that we've built in new security features, like our software guard extensions. We've built those into our third generation Intel Xeon processor family, which helps to secure data. Because just as data is the driving fuel behind all the transformation we see, its value is so important, both as an asset, but also something that we have to protect for our customers and partners. And we're putting the features in the silicon technology that allows you to do that. We're also innovating in memory with our Intel Optane persistent memory family, which allows you to get terabytes of data very close to the CPU for better performance. And of course, we're investing in that end-to-end data science tools and smart solutions ecosystem that's so important to making AI real. And I'll talk a bit more about some of those specific investments later. And Xeon, like I mentioned, isn't only the only chip that we're offering to support AI workloads. If you could go to the next slide. You know, as we talk about IoT in the edge, we have to recognize that Xeon isn't going to be the option for every application. You'll have edge boxes and servers where it'll fit in very nicely, but there are going to be a lot of applications where you want something that's maybe a little bit more lower power that can really fit into some of these applications. And that's where our 11th generation Intel processor family, our Intel Core processor family fits in. And what you can see here is an overview of our 11th gen family. And some of the things to call out is that we're building in some of these AI features, right? DL Boost, for instance. You know, you can get that not just in the Xeon CPU, but also in the 11th gen Core CPU. We also have our AVX 512 instruction set, which supports vector computations, as well as int8 and floating point 16 instruction sets. And then also the built-in GPU as part of these CPUs also provides significant performance with up to 96 graphics execution units. So a really great product, and it's something that we're excited to see getting into these applications, because bringing features like DL Boost out to the edge, we think it just opens up so much potential to create value for our mutual customers. Next slide, please. So what are some examples of where we're seeing these applications end up? You know, it's always inspiring to me to see the amount of innovation that's happening, and I know Indonesia is driving so much of that. There's a ton of innovation that's happening in Indonesia right now around vision, around manufacturing and IoT, as well as new use cases driven by adoption of next generation network technologies by the telcos. So think about like a store where you would never even have to, pay. You walk in, pick something off the shelf, and your account is automatically billed, for instance. Systems that can improve defect detection in a manufacturing line to reduce costs and improve yields. These are some of the applications that we're seeing deployed. And you can see here how the Intel processor family enables some of that. So in this case, you see an edge application for industrial machine vision for defect detection. And you can see this is driven by an 11th gen Intel Core processor. So it's leveraging that Intel deep learning, that DL Boost capability to do real-time inferencing on the images that are being captured of the products as they walk down the production line, so to speak. And that's enabled by the Intel distribution of the OpenVINO toolkit, which is one of those software tools where we've made significant investments to make it easier for you to bring AI solutions to market more quickly. Next slide, please. Now here you can see kind of a summary of our vision. So our vision when it comes to AI is really AI everywhere. And to make that vision real, we're focused on simplicity, productivity, and performance. We believe those are the three key things to making AI real everywhere. The first part is that simplicity of push to start AI solutions. So that's being able to leverage turnkey solutions and providers from the Intel Solutions Marketplace. So we work with companies around the world, including in Indonesia, to help develop these solutions. And then because our business model is built on partnership in the ecosystem, we want to work with you and other partners to help bring those to market, to enable our mutual customers to find the AI solution that best meets their need. And then, of course, for productivity, we want to make sure that developers are able to build smarter and build faster. And we do that through the optimization of popular tools like TensorFlow, PyTorch, OpenVINO, Scikit-learn, XGBoost, NumPy. I mean, there's a long list of optimizations that we're doing to ensure that when you deploy AI solutions or develop AI solutions based on these technologies, you're absolutely getting the best performance and the customer is getting the best value for their investment. And then, of course, we also recognize how important performance is. You know, performance is what really has made AI popular. And through the investments that we're making in those software optimizations, the innovation that we're putting into every one of those products, the CPUs, the GPUs, the FPGAs, the AI specialized accelerators and ASICs, as well as memory and connectivity and storage. All of these things come together to enable a high performance, highly performant AI solution that really delivers value to the end customer. Next slide, please. And so here you can kind of get a sense maybe of how that, what that looks like. So, we're investing, for instance, throughout the data lifecycle, pre-processing, build and deployment, as well as deployment. And so we're doing a lot of optimizations around Spark and big data, and you can see some of that here, as well as a lot of investment into Python-based applications. We think that Python-based data science environment is really important. And if that's the world that you're working in, you'll absolutely want to download the Intel AI Analytics Toolkit, which also supports that terabytes of memory per node that Optane persistent memory offers, as well as the optimized versions of TensorFlow and PyTorch that we're putting out there. So this is really about making sure that we're giving you the optimized tool sets and toolkits that you need to bring solutions to market. And we're doing that through our One API initiative, which I'll talk a bit about a bit more. Next slide, please. So, going back to that first slide where I showed kind of the broad range of Intel products for AI, we recognize that developers face a real problem. And that is when you have different architectures, different compute architectures, it makes development really complex. So you may have to develop for a CPU, you may have to develop for a GPU or an FPGA. We wanted to build a solution that would make that problem of heterogeneous computing simpler and less of a roadblock for developers to really enable innovation. And so that's where the One API product really comes in to play, because it offers a low-level hardware interface, as well as a compatibility tool, support for different languages, libraries, as well as analysis and debug tools to help you get applications to market faster, and to be able to deploy across multiple architectures, because we recognize that some applications need to be able to scale from the data center and the cloud all the way out to the edge. And we need to have that flexibility, because AI is no longer a question of just being in one place. Next slide, please. And so I'll share with you a couple of examples. And you may be familiar with these, and if you are, please bear with me. You can see here there's a link if you'd like to learn more. So this is the Intel One API AI Analytics Toolkit. And what this is developed for is this is developed for data scientists, AI researchers, developers, and application developers to give them the tools that they need to deliver accelerated end-to-end AI and data analytics solutions. So what you can see that you've got here is we've got the Intel optimization for TensorFlow and PyTorch. We also have a low precision optimization tool, as well as the Intel Model Zoo, which includes different models that you can build into your applications, as well as our data analytics and machine learning tools. So the Intel distribution of Python is there, as well as some accelerated data frames that we've worked on as well. And we're making this available in software to help you get the best value out of that investment in the Intel silicon inside of your application. Next slide, please. And here's a closer look at that Analytics Zoo offering. So this is really a software platform for big data AI. And you can see here, it offers models and algorithms for recommendation engines, computer vision, natural language processing. We support different machine learning workflows, including AutoML. And again, notice that you see the optimized distribution of TensorFlow and PyTorch on Spark. And you also see the optimizations that we've done for Spark data frames and machine learning pipelines for deep learning. So, this is really designed for a wide range of compute environments. And again, the intention is to make that development process simpler, make the development experience more productive, and make sure that your solution is really delivering the best performance possible. Yeah. And to the next slide, please. And lastly, this is my last slide, and then we'll open up for questions. But you know, most everybody that I talk to that's doing development work in AI is using Python. And most of them that I've spoken to, or a lot of them, aren't really aware of the investments that Intel has made in a distribution of Python that allows you to get even better performance. So typically with minimal code changes or no code changes, just by installing the Intel distribution of Python, you'll get better performance. Sometimes with code, there may need to be some optimizations that are made to get the best performance, particularly if you're using other architectures. But we're happy to work through that with you and help you get the maximum performance in your application. And you can see some of the things that they were offering. So, I think the key is we're really enabling developers to get near native performance running Python by accelerating some of those core Python numerical packages using some of our, and we do that using our performance libraries. So that's one MKL and one DAL. So those are our math kernel libraries and the data analytics libraries that we built into it. And this is really all about helping you get that real maximum value out of the Intel silicon and getting that highly performant application that's going to meet your end customer needs. So that's just a quick look at some of the things that we're doing on the software side as well as the hardware side to realize this vision of AI everywhere. And we're excited to work with you on this journey and to see how we can transform business and life and education in Indonesia by bringing some really exciting new AI-based solutions to market. So with that, I think we can go to the next slide and maybe we open it up and take some questions.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much Mr. Sumner for the presentation. Dan kepada Bapak Ibu dan juga teman-teman yang sudah hadir di sini, if there's a question, just put your questions in the Q&A box. Dan tadi kita sudah dengarkan tentunya Bapak Ibu dan juga teman-teman yang hadir di sini pemaparan dari Mr. Sumner terkait dengan AI technology from Intel, di mana tadi juga kita diajak untuk membayangkan ya dunia dengan AI di mana-mana ini seperti apa. Dan dikatakan ya it's reality gitu, AI ada di cloud, di on-premise, di device, dan tentunya di sini Intel mensupportnya dengan teknologi-teknologinya. Tadi kita sudah dengarkan ya pemaparan detail terkait dengan Intel Xeon, Core, hingga Intel Atom juga. Dan beragam teknologi tentunya Bapak Ibu di sini ini membantu memaksimalkan performance nih. Jadi membangun lebih cerdas, lebih cepat, teknologi yang membuat semuanya ini lebih simpel dan berujung menjadi produktif nih. Dan kalau bicara soal performance yang baik, ini semuanya akan berujung bagaimana nanti semuanya bekerja dengan fleksibel, more efficient, and also more effective. Dan kepada Bapak Ibu dan juga teman-teman yang sudah hadir di sini, saya persilahkan jika ada pertanyaan, silahkan mendrop pertanyaannya di kolom Q&A yang telah disediakan. Sekali lagi, bisa menggunakan bahasa Inggris atau bisa menggunakan bahasa Indonesia. That's okay ya Bapak Ibu, jangan malu untuk bertanya tentunya. Karena di sini sudah ada pakarnya. Baik, Mr. Sumner, there is a question from Freddy Andika. Nowadays, machine learning or AI can be embedded in microcontrollers like transfer flow, light, edge impulse. Why Intel doesn't make AI or machine learning tools for microcontroller, Mr. Sumner?
Hey, first of all, thank you for the question. And I think what the question you're asking, you're absolutely right. AI is going everywhere to the edge, and we need to be able to have scalable solutions that can build that capability out there. To your specific question about microcontrollers, what I would call out is that the Intel IoT Edge Gateway has similar capabilities with AI embedded in the microcontroller. And using that Edge Gateway, you're able to take advantage of the full power of those software capabilities that I was mentioning earlier.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Freddy, for your questions. Luar biasa, dan kepada Bapak Ibu dan juga teman-teman, silahkan jika masih ada yang ingin bertanya, just put your questions in the Q&A box in English or in bahasa, it's okay. Nanti akan ada teman-teman juga dari Synnex Metro Data Indonesia ataupun dari Intel yang akan membantu mengartikan, menjawab pertanyaan-pertanyaan yang sudah masuk. Okay, and there is another questions, Mr. Sumner, from Ega Wibisono. Why Intel provides so many support in software and AI development as a silicon company? How partner can get benefit? And how about go-to-market specialists in Indonesia? Mr. Sumner, please answer it.
Sorry, Sancha, let me make sure I understand the question. You're asking about how can partners take advantage of the programs that we have in Indonesia? Was that the question?
Beg your pardon, sorry?
Sorry, could you repeat the question for me?
Okay, I will repeat your the questions from Ega Wibisono. Why Intel provides so many support in software and AI development as a silicon company? How partners can get benefit? And how about go-to-market, especially in Indonesia? The questions, Mr. Sumner?
Okay, great. A couple of things. So I think the first part of the question I heard was why is Intel investing so much in some of the software optimizations? And I'll take that one first, and I can talk about maybe the collaboration and the partnership piece, the ecosystem partnership piece. You know, I think software has always been part of Intel's heritage. You know, even if you go back to the 1980s, the investments that we made at that time in compilers enabled developers to get the best performance on Intel processors. And, you know, I think, you know, those compilers continue to be really important. So I think we've always had in our DNA this idea that to get the best out of hardware, you also have to have the best in software. And in AI specifically, you know, you need to have that tight interaction, even more so potentially just because of the complexity of the algorithms and the sheer volume of data. And so we believe strongly that those two are closely connected. And so you'll see us continue to invest very heavily in software and the developer ecosystem. For the partnership piece is, you know, my ask would be is connect with Synnex, connect with the Intel team. We have a couple of really good programs that are out there. There's a market ready solution program where we work with developers to help take their solutions to market and to promote them. There is an AI builders program as well, where we work with companies that are developing AI solutions on Intel, and we look to bring them to market. And then we've just recently relaunched our partner program as well. And, you know, we recognize that we needed to, you know, offer new capabilities to our partners because of the, you know, the growth in cloud and AI. And so we've taken a closer look at some of those capabilities. So I would encourage you to reach out to the local team, get connected, and let us know how we can help you. I mean, end of the day, Intel's business model is built on partnership. The only way that we win is if you win in the market. So we want to go on this journey together with you.
Okay.
Thank you,
Mr. Sumner. Sorry, Sandra, aku boleh nambahin dikit? Oke, untuk yang Pak Ega, untuk yang Pak Ega nanya apa sih how partner can get benefit sama gimana di market untuk go to marketnya ya. Mungkin nanti kita bisa discuss offline Pak Ega tentang ini. Jadi nanti akan dibantu dengan teman-teman SME juga. Tapi kalau memang butuh untuk direct ke saya juga nanti willing untuk share email saya. Jadi nanti kita bisa langsung ngomong apa sih partner program yang ada di Intel, apa aja untuk yang dari AI ini, mungkin dari IoT aggregator juga ada. Terus go to marketnya kita mau kayak gimana? Nah, kita bisa discuss lebih lanjut untuk itu. Oke, thank you Sandra, thank you Pak Ega.
Oke, terima kasih kembali Bu Maria atas tadi penekanannya untuk Pak Ega. Jadi bisa ngobrol-ngobrol lebih dalam ya. Tadi kalau misalnya sudah dijawab oleh Mr. Sumner ya, tentunya banyak benefit yang bisa didapat karena bisa connect dengan Synnex, Metro Data Indonesia sebagai distributor IT terbesar di Indonesia, dengan Intel juga. Kemudian juga ada program-program yang bisa dibantu Bapak, Ibu, dan juga teman-teman ikuti yang tentunya bisa bawa manfaat besar juga dan lebih lengkap ya. Nanti bisa ngobrol bareng dengan Ibu Maria langsung ya terkait ini. Baik, thank you so much Pak Ega for your questions, dan kepada Bapak, Ibu, dan juga teman-teman yang sudah hadir di sini, saya persilahkan untuk mendrop pertanyaannya di kolom Q&A ya, jangan di kolom chat ya. Sekali lagi, mohon pindahkan untuk pertanyaannya dari kolom chat ke kolom Q&A. And we will go to the next questions. From Kilian, the question is, one API only available in Xeon or Core can do also, Mr. Sumner?
Great question. One API works across all the Intel architectures. So it supports Xeon, it supports Core, it supports FPGA, parts of it support FPGA. Our vision really is to simplify the problem of heterogeneous compute. So at the moment, the focus is on CPU plus GPU, so Xeon, Core plus GPU. And you'll see over time, we'll expand that. We recognize the challenge of heterogeneous compute, and we want to make that problem, go away as much as we can for developers.
Oke. Pertanyaan bagus dari Mr. Kilian, semoga menjawab untuk pertanyaannya. And we go to the next question before, because there is a lot of questions, Mr. Sumner. Okay, we go to the questions from Christopher. The question is, why is known as a silicon company? Why Intel using so much in developer ISVS with Intel One APA?
Yeah, no, great question. It's like I said, I mean, AI is not just a hardware problem. We need hardware and software. And Intel has always had one of the largest software development teams of any company in the world. And we think that software is really important to help you get the best value out of the Intel platform. And so we're committed to helping to provide that through optimizations and so forth. And the One API vision is really a strategy of trying to bring that all together in a way that speaks to that need for simplicity and productivity and performance in the solution development.
Okay, thank you for the answer. And we will move to another question about security, Mr. Sumner. It is from the question from Maraidis. The question is, how about the data security? Can be provided AI solution from Intel?
Yeah, great question. And I think we could have a webinar around the topic of data security. It's a really important topic. Intel feels strongly about the importance of data security, and that's why we've built in new security features into our third generation Xeon Scalable Processor family. And one example that I would call out is SGX, software guard extensions. So SGX enables you to create a secure enclave in memory to protect data when it's being processed. It can also be used for federated learning applications. So we did one project several years ago here in Southeast Asia, where we recognized that banks aren't allowed to move data across borders because of data sovereignty laws and regulations. So working together with a bank in Thailand, a bank in Singapore, as well as the Monetary Authority of Singapore, we demonstrated that you could do an anti-money laundering application across border using federated learning. And we think that's really important because there are different applications, whether it's across countries' borders and different types of data, like sensitive personal data like health records or banking records that we can't just move around. And sometimes the data needs to stay someplace for different reasons. And so features like SGX enable that and help to support that drive for improved data security.
Okay, thank you so much for your answer, and thank you kepada Maraidis untuk pertanyaannya. Ini yang masuk pertanyaannya great semua ya, bagus-bagus, luar biasa loh, jago-jago nih yang hadir, tentunya yang hadir di sini ya. Dan kepada Bapak Ibu dan juga teman-teman, sekali lagi saya ingatkan jika ada pertanyaan atau hal-hal yang ingin disampaikan, Silahkan untuk mendrop pertanyaannya di kolom Q&A ya, jangan di kolom chat. Jadi yang tadi sudah mungkin mendropnya di kolom chat, silahkan untuk dipindahkan ke kolom Q&A yang telah disediakan. And we move to the another questions, still from Christopher. Okay, the question is, as we know, for AI acceleration, there is a CPU compute only. CPU plus GPU. In slide number 2, mention CPU plus custom. Can you explain more on this? Is there any custom collaboration hardware to accelerate AI, Mr. Sumner?
So I think the question was about the range of Intel CPU products we have, so with Xeon and Core and Atom, correct? I think if I'm understanding the question correctly, what we recognize is that there are different types of applications that will require different kinds of hardware, and not every hardware solution is the right fit for every application. So it's important to us that we have the full portfolio of products that we can make available for you to choose the product that best fits your solution. So yeah, I hope I got that question correctly, Sandra.
Okay. This is Christopher, apakah bisa dipahami? Mungkin bisa chat di kolom chat. Atau Ibu Maria juga ingin menambahkan, Bu Maria?
Pak Christopher, kalau misalnya emang masih ada yang kurang, jawaban dari Sumner nanti bisa dibantu. Kalau misalnya masih kurang puas, bisa dibantu nanti dengan Pak Guanbun. Apakah sudah puas atau belum?
Or Mr. Guanbun?
Yeah. So the question is a Christopher question. Is about AI acceleration. There is a CPU compute, CPU plus GPU. Hardware and is there any custom collaboration hardware to accelerate the AI? So basically, as you can see, different hardware, they have a different AI accelerations because the algorithm. Some of it is using a CPU functions, right, to accelerate like VNNI, right, instruction set. Some of it maybe use a GPU capability, and we also have like FPGA. We can customize the logic, the algorithm in FPGA to solve that problem. So it is a matter of software optimizations on the hardware. So of course you need the hardware to accelerate the AI. But you can use the existing CPU at a start first. When you want to accelerate your AI algorithm, you can use that like optimize the software, like Python distribution software that we already optimized with Intel CPU. Then you can see your AI performance push up already. So the key message here is like you use the optimized software development tools to get started first. Then after that, if it's still not enough, then you can add on the hardware, right? FPGA, ASIC, Havana accelerator chips, right, to accelerate your AI algorithm.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Thanks, Guanbun. And you know, one thing I could add to that is, Christopher, is you know, sometimes it's not always about speed. You know, sometimes speed is really important, but our view is look at what the total cost is, because sometimes going for an accelerator, which could be expensive in terms of cost or even power consumption, the trade-off in the solution may or may not be worth it. So an example could be is, you know, sometimes like if you're running you know, inference, you know, how quickly do you need the solution? Or if you're retraining, how long do you need to retrain? Are you retraining from scratch? Is it transfer learning? I mean, there are different types of applications. So don't lose sight of the importance of balancing cost in the solution, because at the end of the day, that will help determine the value proposition for the end customer.
Okay, thank you so much for your clear answer, Mr. Sumner, and also thank you, Mr. Guan, for your explanation, and terima kasih kepada Ibu Maria Kalingi juga. Semoga Pak Christopher sudah cukup menjawab ya. Ini kalau kita lihat di kolom chat, Mr. Christopher State.
Oke ya Pak ya. Kalau belum, nanti kita tag offline aja, oke? Biar lebih jelas. Oke.
Oke, siap. Thank you Bu Maria dan terima kasih Pak Christopher, ini aktif dari tadi bertanya, luar biasa ya. Baik, kita akan move to the another questions from Dani Ismarianto Ruhyat. Okay, Mr. Sumner, he want to ask about IP protection in Intel's AI solution. How to protect inference file on device from being used by other? And the questions, the second questions, how to make the interference files is only available on certain device. Let's say my company will sell the AI solution in a device with our inference file in it.
A great question, and and I'll pass that one to Guanboon because I think it's how you're able to protect your IP is a technical question. And Guanboon, would you like to take that one?
Yeah, sure. So for example, first of all, the inference file normally is already binary file. So there is no code in there. It's a binary file that you cannot see anything from there. But you also concern now, I think you concern people copy out your inference file and if let's say they know your same application code and you use the inference file, right? So one of the things that we have in our silicon is that you're able to do kind of like, if let's say use an edge device, you can have like TPM, touch platform modules. You can store the key inside the TPM, and then you encrypt the entire disk drive, right, to protect all the data that in the edge devices. So once you encrypt the entire disk drive, if let's say they copy out your file, right, for other purpose, then they're not able to see the information at all, and all the things they encrypted. So already being protect your IP, right, using some of this kind of security functions in your devices. Okay.
Gimana, Dani? Oh, oke.
Sudah cukup menjawab kah, Mr. Pak Dani, untuk pertanyaannya? Thank you so much. Once again, Mr. Guanboon, for your good explanation. Okay, very detailed. Mr. Dani say thank you for the detailed answer and the explanation. Terima kasih Pak Dani juga atas pertanyaannya. And we can go to the next questions from Suharyanto. The question is, what are Intel products example hardware and software? Can you explain deeper about this, Mr. Sumner?
Sure. Yeah, thank you for the question. I think I would split the products into the examples would be two types. So on the software side, that would be the one API product that I mentioned, which includes some of our optimized toolkits, like think OpenVINO, for instance, as well as the optimization work we've done on things like Intel optimized distribution of Python. And then on the hardware side, I would look at the different types of products that we offer across CPU. So think Xeon, Core, Atom. Think about specialized ASICs. So that could be the VPU, the Movidius family, which is designed for very edge type of applications, as well as that high-end Habana family, which is really designed for cloud data center class applications with huge volumes of data. And then of course there's FPGA and the GPU family. So really a wide range of hardware products. So I hope that gives you a sense of the kind of examples of products that we're bringing to market from both the hardware and the software perspective.
Okay, thank you Mr. Sumner, dan semoga menjawab untuk Pak Suharyanto pertanyaannya. Mungkin nanti lebih jelas, lebih dalamnya lagi juga bisa berbincang-bincang dengan teman-teman dari Synnex Metrodata ya. Dan juga teman-teman dari Intel, dan bisa disesuaikan juga tentunya dengan kebutuhan ataupun solusi atau deployment sesuai dengan perusahaan Bapak atau Ibu yang ada di sini. Thank you so much sekali lagi Pak Suharyanto atas pertanyaannya. And we move to the another questions from, di sini design. The question is it possible to combine CPU, GPU, FPGA in one single server, Mr. Sumner?
The answer is yes, you can do that. So, in an industry standard server, with PCIe slots, you could in theory put a GPU and FPGA in there if that's what the application requires. And Guanboon, do you want to add anything in terms of, special considerations they might want to take into account with that type of approach?
Yeah. Yeah. Of course, the single server, you need to have multiple PCI Express slot, and then of course the speed also important. They have a PCIe by 16, by 8, by 4. So you need to select the right slot and right hardware interface for your server.
So, and that's, I think that's really the great thing about, using the Intel platform is you do have that flexibility where you can put in different types of capabilities, servicing different applications, at the edge all the way back up to the data center. So,
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Sumner, and also thank you, Mr. Guan, for your help. Dan semoga menjawab untuk ini desain namanya ya. Jadi bisa tentu jawabannya, dan tadi sudah dipaparkan, semoga cukup memuaskan untuk jawabannya. Kita masih buka untuk yang masih ingin bertanya, silahkan untuk mendrop pertanyaannya di kolom Q&A yang telah disediakan. Kita masih ada waktu sebelum nanti kita tutup dan kehilangan nih kesempatan untuk ngobrol bareng, untuk discuss bareng dengan pakarnya langsung, expert dari Intel Corporation tentunya sudah hadir hari ini untuk menjawab berbagai pertanyaan-pertanyaan atau case-case yang mungkin dimiliki nih untuk Bapak Ibu dan juga teman-teman mungkin yang sudah ada AI di kantor ataupun yang ingin memulai tapi bingung seperti apa. Jadi silahkan untuk mendrop pertanyaannya di kolom Q&A yang telah disediakan, and we will answer one questions again from Bintang. Yeah, the questions is, does it an available opportunity such kind of summer bootcamp program using OpenVINO toolkit to resolve IoT and deep AI related project, Mr. Sumner?
yeah, I think, look, I could check with, I think Maria and Guanbu can speak to if we have specific bootcamp programs that are planned for the coming summer months. But, I would say I love the idea. I think the great thing about these webinars is we're able to come together as a community, as an ecosystem, and help to support and, and build new innovations that we can take to market. So I think if there's an opportunity for us to get together with the ecosystem in Indonesia and, help, work with you to leverage OpenVINO on IoT edge and deep learning applications, yeah, I think we'd love to explore that. Guanbu, Maria, anything you'd like to add to that? I think it's a great idea.
Yes, thank you, Sumner. Ya, Pak Bintang ya?
Ya,
Mbak
Pak
Sandra.
Bintang.
Ya, Pak Bintang. Ya, ide ini kayak Sumner bilang tadi, idenya bagus banget. Mungkin kita akan bisa adain ini untuk summer bootcamp juga. Nanti kita akan infokan juga yang pasti lewat Synnex juga, lewat Metrodata juga, nanti akan kita infokan ke teman-teman sekalian untuk bootcamp ini nantinya kalau ada. Dan ini benar-benar oke banget kalau misalnya kita juga bisa sharing session dengan teman-teman sesama ekosistem, terutama juga yang teman-teman yang ikut berpartisipasi di Asosiasi IoT Indonesia ya, sama mungkin yang buat AI-nya juga. Jadi kita bisa saling tukar pikiran, saling tahu, bukan saling tahu solusinya apa, nyontek enggak, tapi gimana resolve problem gitu kan ya, untuk IoT sama AI project itu sih. Next kita akan infokan untuk yang sekarang mungkin nanti juga bisa diikuti juga, ini training-training yang kita akan adakan dalam rangka Edge AI Challenge ini, masih ada beberapa training lagi. Nah, di situ kita juga tampilkan ada expert-expert yang memang dari Intel US juga, jadi benar-benar langsung dari sumbernya, product manajernya langsung yang akan ngomong, nanti teman-teman juga bisa langsung bertanya apa istilahnya keluhan-keluhan yang terjadi sekarang ini, apa hambatannya, challenge-nya, bisa ditanyakan langsung dan bisa langsung dapat juga solusinya di situ gitu. Jadi nanti terakhir nanti Mbak Sandra juga akan infokan jadwal-jadwal training dalam ini akan sampai bulan Juli akhir ya. Jadi bisa ikut juga, nanti akan diinfokan jadwal-jadwalnya dan akan di-email juga ke teman-teman sekalian gitu. Oke.
Thank you Bu Maria and Mr. Guan. Is there anything you would say again?
Yeah. For those bootcamp, once Maria has the activity, I will support her on those section and so on. So yeah, definitely you contact with Maria on this.
Yes.
Thank you.
Stage-nya Pak Bintang.
Oke, terima kasih Pak Bintang atas idenya nih ya. Nanti kita akan pikirkan, tentunya luar biasa sekali ini pertanyaan yang masuk, keren-keren, luar biasa. Kemudian juga ini memunculkan ide-ide bahkan ya. Sekali lagi terima kasih loh untuk Bapak Ibu dan juga teman-teman yang sudah bertanya. Mungkin saya kasih tepuk tangan dulu sekali lagi untuk Bapak Ibu dan juga teman-teman yang sudah bertanya. Luar biasa sekali. Dan jika sudah tidak ada pertanyaan lagi, saya akan tutup mungkin sesi diskusi kita hari ini dan mungkin nanti silahkan join di sesi-sesi berikutnya ya Bapak Ibu ya. Saya kira cukup untuk sesi presentasinya. And Mr. Sumner, that's all. Thank you so much for your great presentation and your answer. It's very great. Thank you so much, Mr. Sumner.
Thank you,
Okay.
Sandra. I really appreciate you facilitating this session. And just in closing, I'd like to thank all the attendees for taking time out of your busy afternoon and spending it with us. We really appreciate the close partnership with Synnex Metro Data, and we're looking forward to working with you. I think Indonesia is one of the most exciting markets anywhere in the world, and you're really at the forefront of this next wave of innovation and those new solutions that are going to make business more productive, that are going to make our lives better and probably help us get out of this current pandemic situation. It's going to come out of innovators such as yourselves. And we look forward to working with you and seeing how we can collaborate and support you on this journey. So thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you too. Thank you so much, Mr. Sumner. Stay healthy, tentunya stay safe and stay healthy. Dan terima kasih juga nih kepada Bapak Ibu dan juga teman-teman yang sudah hadir. Tadi sudah disampaikan oleh Mr. Sumner, luar biasa sekali antusiasmenya, semangatnya, dan ditunggu ya setelah mendengarkan pemaparan ini. Semoga bisa memunculkan ide-ide dan nantinya bisa siap nih berkolaborasi dengan Intel. Karena bicara soal ide, solusi, ini jangan sampai bangsa Indonesia cuma hanya menjadi consumer saja ya. Tapi kita juga sebenarnya bisa loh unjuk gigi, kita juga bisa loh jadi produsennya. Jadi tinggal Bapak Ibu dan juga teman-teman yang hadir di sini semangat dan yakin bahwa bisa, karena tools-nya juga di sini sudah disiapkan, sudah dibantu. Jadi tinggal niatnya saja tentunya. Once again, untuk Bapak Ibu dan juga teman-teman, terima kasih untuk yang sudah hadir. Saya happy sekali karena semangatnya luar biasa, pertanyaannya juga keren-keren, dan mungkin pertanyaan yang muncul juga nih untuk Bapak Ibu dan juga teman-teman yang sudah hadir di sini adalah next trainingnya bagaimana? Nah, kita akan lihat jadwalnya. Silahkan langsung foto, screenshot ya, terkait dengan next schedule training kita, dan yang terdekat ada di tanggal 17 Juni 2021. Nah, ini jamnya jam pagi nih, jam 8 nih. Jadi siapkan diri Anda, siapkan waktunya, karena tentunya sekali lagi nih yang hadir, untuk para pembicaranya, untuk speakernya, ini benar-benar expert dari Intel Corporation, dari berbagai negara. Kemarin kita ada dari US, kemudian hari ini dari Singapura. Besok dari mana? Stay tune terus tentunya. Ditunggu informasinya dan nanti jangan lupa daftar untuk ikut kegiatan-kegiatan kita hari ini. Ini ada yang bertanya bagaimana dapat info untuk training selanjutnya. Pantengin terus, nanti juga akan di-share tentunya oleh teman-teman dari Synnex Metro Data Indonesia dan juga Intel. Dan pembahasannya untuk next week adalah OpenVINO integration with TensorFlow. Nah, tadi ada sedikit-sedikit dibahas juga ya terkait ini. Nah, besok kita akan bahas lebih dalam tentunya. Dan kita masih akan ada training-training selanjutnya sampai dengan bulan Juli. Jadi stay tune terus semangatnya ya Bapak, Ibu, dan juga teman-teman yang sudah hadir. Baik, saya rasa kita sudah sampai di penghujung acara kita pada hari ini. Sekali lagi terima kasih kepada Bapak, Ibu, dan juga teman-teman yang sudah hadir. And also once again Mr. Sumner Lemon, Mr. Patrick, Mr. Guan Buntang, thank you so much. Stay safe and healthy. Dan kepada Bapak, Ibu, dan juga teman-teman yang sudah hadir di sini, semangat selalu. Bu Maria, terima kasih. Pak Herianto, terima kasih. Sehat selalu. Dan tentunya kepada Bapak, Ibu, dan juga teman-teman yang hadir di sini, kita tunggu ya untuk kehadirannya di next training. Ditunggu tentunya, jangan lupa jam 8 pagi. Ini saya yakin yang besok hadir ini orang-orang yang punya semangat sukses luar biasa. Ya, jadi silahkan daftar, sampai ketemu lagi tentunya, dan semoga pemaparan yang hari ini disampaikan bisa memberikan manfaat, wawasan untuk Bapak, Ibu, dan juga teman-teman sekali lagi untuk membangun ide, solusi, berkolaborasi dengan Intel dan juga Synnex Metro Data Indonesia. Sekali lagi terima kasih. Sampai jumpa di training berikutnya. See you, have a nice day, and stay healthy everyone. Bye.
Like you love finding, yeah, me too. When I want, when I come through, I need a girl like you, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I need a girl like you, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I need a girl like you. I spent last night on the last flight to you. Took a whole day up, try to get way up, ooh. We spent a daylight trying to make things right between us. I know it's all good, babe. Roll that backward, babe, and play me close. Cause girls like you run real with guys like me. Doesn't know when I come through, I need a girl like you, yeah, yeah. Girls like you love finding, yeah, me too. When I want, when I